I've been living in the UK for the past 10 years. I lived in Sunderland for 5 years with a 1-year break. I went to Texas, and I went to New York for 4 months. I came back. After living there for about 5 years, I moved to London, and I've been here since 2019. And I've been thinking about, a lot of people are thinking of moving to the UK, and they're considering what the opportunities will be for them in terms of their career, in terms of their overall living situation, and seeking a better life as well, and so on. I have a few things that I wanted to say, and I think what a perfect way to say that, and to be on the top of the Seven Sisters National Park, one of them in the UK. And I wanted to talk about the top benefits that I've seen living in the UK for the past 10 years. I've traveled a lot around the world, in China, in Asia, in the US, and here in Eastern Europe as well. And I think number one thing is the diversity here. There's just a lot of people, and I'm not talking only about cultures, I'm talking about overall different people from different backgrounds. You could meet people that have not got anything in their childhood, and then you can meet people that have got a lot as well. You can meet people that are coming from different backgrounds, different cultures. Like, all of my friends are have Pakistani friends, I have Indian friends, but they're British. I have American friends here, British friends. So you see a lot of variety of people that you can learn about, and it opens you up to what other cultures are and how they, like, what their differences are, you know. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because if you're coming from an Eastern Europe like me, you don't see that a lot there. And moving here has been a blessing for me, because it allowed me to meet so many different people with different backgrounds that have settled here, maybe first generation, second generation, for a long time. So number one is diversity. Number two is culture. I think they both go together, but culture is key. I think if you're in London, it's hard to see the culture, but if you go up north, for example York, Newcastle, Manchester, or if you're in the countryside, somewhere in the countryside in the UK, you'll see a lot of the culture of people that are super kind and nice and open. If you ever go to like somewhere like this, the countryside, I went to Leeds last summer and to see a couple of friends, and we stayed in a very small town near, so it was all countryside, and it was beautiful. Like, you go to the family pub and you just see people that live in that village and go there. We stayed until like 1 o'clock. So there's a lot of culture there, and York specifically as well. If you ever have the chance, that's where I think the most emphasized British culture is. If you go there, you can have like small little pubs there, a lot of good fish and chips and so on, which brings me to the third point. There's certain things that I don't see them anywhere else, even though people say that there's no British culture because everything has been stolen from something else. I don't agree with that, because if you travel around, you'll see that British culture is very defined here, whereas not in other countries. For example, fish and chips is one thing. When you hear fish and chips, you know it's the UK. It has nothing else, and it's delicious and it's great. Number two is if you go to, for example, like baking and stuff like that, like Greg's is like a really key thing here, right? People know it, and it's like you can only eat those sandwiches, like steak bake, for example, like no, I've never seen it anywhere else, to have like baked like beef or pies and stuff like that. You can you get a lot of variety here, and usually people look over these things because they think that UK is just, the culture is disappearing and so on. So I think number 3, definitely food, because it's different. It's definitely different. When I think about the US and Eastern Europe and Spain and stuff, like the UK is definitely different and better in a sense. Number 4, I'll say pub culture. If you've been in other countries, you'll see that people usually go to bars and like dress up and all of that stuff, or they go to beach bars and, you know, they don't dress up. But here pub culture is very interesting because a pub is actually called a public house, and how it started back in the day as people that would own a house, right? They would have a pub downstairs, or at least that's what I believe. Maybe somebody can fact check me. Where they made their house, kind of like their living room essentially, downstairs into a pub, where public house, so people come in there and hang around and have a beer and stuff. And even if you're by yourself, it's completely normal to go by yourself to the pub and have a drink, because that's how they actually came about. You would go to the pub and you'll meet the neighborhood, like the neighbors and everybody, and that's how you build a community, basically. So it's very interesting part of the UK, and everybody's like super down to earth. If you go to the pub, it's like dark in there, and people just have pints and so on. Like, that's during the winter, and during the summer you could see a lot of like they put the tables outside and have a great time in the sun. Next thing is free healthcare. Free healthcare is huge, right? So even though I don't use it too much, I just benefited from it recently. So I have to go to the dentist, right? Now just imagine living in the US. If I lived in the US, I would have paid maybe about $1,000 for this treatment. I basically chipped my tooth, and all I did is I called 111 and I say, I want an emergency appointment for a dentist. I chipped my tooth. They booked me immediately at the best NHS dentist. NHS is National Healthcare System. And I went there and I paid £25, and they fixed my tooth. They put a temporary thing, and now I have to, in July, I'm gonna go to do a filling. It's gonna cost me £80 on the NHS, and because I am insured, my company as well, they're gonna pay for it. So essentially free. So that's dentists, right? Dentists are paid, but they're paid very small amount. You pay a very small amount of money to do it. Whereas NHS is completely free. If you go under the NHS, they'll be able to help you. Even though they're very strict, they're very overworked and so on, they'll still help you for free. And if you don't have private insurance, you can easily use the NHS and do it, even though it's slow, even though whatever. But if you need something, an emergency or something, you can always go and do it. Whereas if you're in the US and if you have an emergency, congratulations, your ambulance costs like about $5,000 to only take you into an ambulance, and then you can go to the emergency rooms and so on. So that's number 5, I guess. Number 6 is opportunities. I guess I would never been able to earn this much that I earn here if I lived in Eastern Europe. Now I'm comparing, of course, Eastern Europe to this, right? And I'm comparing like European countries to London. So it may not be a pure comparison, because if you compare the US, it's completely different. You make a lot more money there. But when you are in Europe, I don't think there's any other country that you can earn more, in that also the quality of life and so on is good. So I think it's number 7, or no, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, is every all together? Can you go that way a bit?
Number 7 is national parks. As I said, I'm here now, and I don't know if I already said that. I think it's been a lot of hiking. I may have said that. But number 7 is the nature in the UK, and that's something that people oversee. But when I was doing my life in the UK test to become a citizen here, I remember that there was a test, there was a multiple choice question, and it was about how much of the land is green here, like forest and so on. And it's like how much the land is green. People are waving here. So 87%, around 87, I could be wrong, 80 to 87 is green, and you don't realize that until you get out of the cities, until you get out of London or you get out of other cities to live in. Because if we're honest, right, lifestyle in the cities is not that great. There's a lot of housing there that's like bundled up together and so on. So to be fair, in this it's very stressful living in the city here, right? Because it's like there's little houses and converted flats and so on. But the reason that was done back in the day in the UK, they used to have zones where people would live in. So there wasn't like spread living, like you can't see houses around here, because in the history, the history of the UK is like they were building buildings only for living there, and they were like always in the cities, like either in a city center or somewhere like close to it as well, that you can, so you live there and then you do your shopping somewhere else and so on. So you kind of, it's only for living. Whereas, for example, if you compare the US, there's houses, and like you can get a house with like 2 acres of land and you can chill out and have privacy. Whereas here, you know, like the flip side of this is that you don't get a lot of privacy where you live. But as soon as you get out and you see like this, there's no private properties. Some, you know, like I just saw one here, but that was it. There's no private properties, nothing. And to go into these national parks is like completely free. You just go and enjoy your time here, and it's like it's beautiful. You can go anywhere you want here, and it's like they're available to the public, and they're so like low-key, like they're not super organized things and have to have a guide or anything like that. You just go by yourself and you enjoy your time here. So that's what I would say. I think I'm on number 8. Next one is the dairy here, right? So there's a couple of things about the dairy. I've never ever tasted better eggs, better milk, bacon as well, even though I haven't had it for a while, but I never really tasted any better dairy than cheese as well. Incredible cheddar cheese and so on. These are the things that I've noticed here that are so good because they're natural, and they have like restrictions and stuff, like farmers and stuff, they have to have like certifications and things like that. So this, even though it kind of affects farming, if somebody has watched Clarkson's farm, you know what I'm talking about. It still makes up a very like it's just different than anywhere else I've seen. So if you go to Eastern Europe, it's like everything is mixed up with like chemicals and stuff like that, whereas here it's like authorized and nicely done. What else is there? Number 9 is the connectivity, I guess, as people, or number 8 is the connectivity, or people, you're just very close to everything. You can travel around, and you could be like, you could travel anywhere in Europe and the US as well. So everything is super connected because it's a hub, like especially London. And number 10, it's kind of different. It's something that I've noticed in a lot of countries that I've been, including the US and Eastern Europe and Spain. And so I've never been to Spain, but I've seen how it's done there. There's something, the government website here is one of the best things, right? like the fact that you can apply for visas, apply for residencies and so on, and you can get like basically any information that you want from a city or place or anything. So now I just went on a website of Seven Sisters National Park and I saw what it's all about, where to start, what the route is and so on. So it's very developed and easy to navigate through the website. You can apply for your taxes very easily. So everything is like very digitalized here, whereas people don't usually talk about it. It's way more digitalized than anywhere else, and everything you pay is like Apple Pay and so on. So it's very cool. Even the government website is even used for like pupils when they're like studying, like second grade, third grade. These material there where you can there's like lessons of, for example, like learning about the nature and so on. Like back in the day we used to have what we called encyclopedias, so you pull it up and you learn stuff about, I don't know, nature, flowers, whatever. And there you could just go on the government website and it shows you a summarized version, chewed up, very simple language for you to understand it. So it's taken from the books that students study, and then you can just like, I forgot what it was called, but it's like a summary of this, right, of like of the learning material, and it's encouraged by teachers, it's encouraged by to read it. So it's like it's very cool. A lot of things are provided for people here. Number 10 and the final one, I have to say the summers. Like, you'll be surprised, the summers are quite nice here because they're not that hot and they're not that cold. Temperature is about, right now is about 27 degrees, and today is 11th of June at 12:50. So you could, the temperature is amazing in the summer, whereas, you know, the next 9 months is not so good. But I have to say, summers here are great because you get a little breeze, you get a lot of sun, people are in the parks, enjoy themselves, going sightseeing and so on. So it's this ends up my video for, I guess, top 10 things, or maybe 9 or maybe 11 about the UK after 10 years of living here. But tell me what you think about it as well, if you are thinking of moving here, or if you lived here for a long time and you're looking to move somewhere else as well. But that summarizes it here at the top of Seven Sisters National Park.